makadaot sa nilula sa bagyo ni Yolanda. Ang ambay naguba ang itapakan po sa bawod kay dako mang dagat.
Katapos it bagyo ay nakita ko tamang nga bagay waong kita kung bakit ay imaw.
Tanan namong gamit, tanan naubos kita. Hindi naman masayran kung ano among operasyon pagkasayad naman iyang bawta among bagay. Ano kami mag-umpisa ito man? Yung mga maintok pa akong mga unga.
Akala ko nga yun yung end of our life. Kasi wala kaming magkita, lahat, kahit dito sa mga area, talagang madilim siya, mahangin, at may tunog pa yung hangin. Talagang hurricane yung dating niya.
Paggawas ko na among balay, bagan may nakitang ko na nga, damo na an patay, damage na gudan, bisan aragian, damage na. Feeling ko talaga, diri na talaga makakabangon.
Challenges of implementation for the Haiyan were the scale of the disaster. This was a very large disaster that affected different islands and across the country, and so it was very vast, not only in terms of number of affected population, but geographically as well. That meant that we had to extend our presence into new places in the country where we hadn't been before, or we didn't have open offices at that time. And then we had opened 5 new offices, one in Guiuan and Tacloban, Ormoc, Cebu and Rojas. The idea was to be present in the affected areas to reach for the affected population and therefore provide the required assistance. Right after Yolanda, the main priority was to provide life-saving shelter to the families that were affected. What we did and what we usually do in this sort of disasters is to provide tents or plastic sheeting that enable people to protect themselves from the elements and provide privacy to their families. At the same time, we've distributed the non-food items, which is kitchen sets, hygiene kits, because it's very often that when families are affected by a disaster, they lose all their belongings and they have to run away from home, and they don't have those key facilities or aspects to go on with their lives.
When I came into IOM, what they said was we need to reach out more to people who were actually hard to reach.
Yung mga lilim na lugar, yung challenging area na hindi talaga mapasok-pasok, pinupunta namin yung bukiri para lang matugunan yung pangailangan ng mga tao. But before po yun nangyayari, we go po muna doon sa municipality to coordinate, at saka then pagkatapos ng municipality, pumunta din kami doon sa mga barangays.
Malaki ang naging involvement ng barangay in selecting the beneficiaries for the IOM Recovery Shelter Package. First, pumupunta kami sa barangay for coordination. Humihingi kami ng tulong, ng guidance para sa aming mga validators to validate house to house. Humihingi kami ng guidance sa mga barangay officials kasi sila yung mas nakakaalam, sila yung mas nakakakilala kung sino yung directly affected, yung mga directly affected population ng Typhoon Yolanda. Ang laki-laki ng involvement ng barangay officials sa pag-select ng beneficiaries.
We started gathering the victims of Yolanda, and we started giving out to them some trainings.
This is what we call shelter disaster risk reduction. And the idea is to enable people to build safer and train them, and so that they train their community members and further cascade the trainings to the rest of their communities, and in this way have a broader reach out for everybody that needs how to build safer.
Tulo sa amon nga bantingan namon, putingon, ti nakikita namon nga pinuting, may banting, yung mga krus duwin dito sa babaw, puro ginlansang kaya mayo.
Training nga ginta at IOM, may minatunan man ako sa pagbutang brace, sa pundasyon, sa pagbutang umbrella nails.
Proud jud ko nga naapil ko kay siyempre talagsaon na gyud yung nana nga babae nya kung panday anak kay labi na karon sigig bagyo nya may gyud ang babae makabaw mo panday kay galitan dili magsalig sa bana kung wa ang bana niya dili na sad magsuhol-suhol og banang upanday nana at least nakahibaw na ko karon. Thank you kay sa IOM.
Shelter is a process that will enable self-sufficiency. The idea is to provide the life-saving shelter that enables people to be protected and then start building upon that into phases that will enable families to have a more secure and more durable solution as to shelter.
Trained them, we oriented them with the application of our DRR. Then, but we were forced to import also some good workers from Mindanao, from our Pablo intervention. Then that infects them in terms of working attitudes. In fact, here in Guiuan, we have groups that can build our shelters in 3 days, which is quite a feat.
By having an activity like the Cash for Work in the construction of shelters enables people to have activities with the income generation, and with that money they can buy the other basic requirements as food or buy education for kids, etc. And at the same time it will enable them to be active.
Maraya na ba ang trabaho kay nabagyuhan man kami. Nandiyan na nga bagyong Yolanda. Yung kuha ko IOM, ako nakabatong kong puting. Adi malawad ayuda malawad lagi pantrabaho itong temporary center. So nakakapalit-palit di kami partihin. Kuha nila akong pamilya, sabon, mga bayad liwat tayo eskulahan. Eskwela naman akong mga anak nalilipay gyud pa ako nakakabulig liwat ako ito ni kasi ko tao na nabubuligang ko herangan may balin herangan may balin herangan kan amon kini mga temporary center para dire na harap pa pangulbaan tera ginuugdan dito ha iti kundi pang mga barangay pwede ko ini apply nga ini mga trabaho pwede yak liwat maghimot akong kalagaring ng balay na sugat ito katibay.
We had two main activities in the Haiyan affected areas for the shelter program. One was the recovery shelter kit, which included construction materials, CGI toolkits and fixing kits to enable people to fix their roofs. The same RSK kit included the shelter training and the cash grant. Families will receive a small amount of cash that will enable them to purchase extra material that they may need to build or rebuild their houses, or even to hire skilled labor to help them to achieve that.
Dakoan iya ginbag-uhan kay hanuna antumala kami nga nakakahigda kay tungod nga nagtututuro man han paghatagi na haamon hinsim kumbaga naging maupay nan amon pangaturog kay dire naman nagtuturoan amon gin puokyan nga balay.
The other activity are the transitional shelters, where we actually build transitional shelters or single detached units where a family will move into. Mostly these are built in relocation sites for families that live in unsafe areas or they have no possibility to return to those places and needs temporary or permanent relocation.
Haten hinapulo ka bulan tapos yan na aanhin na kami ha tagpuro, nakaakoy na himbalay. Rahin ka malipayon talaga kay di na kami naakayentin. Dako nang pinag-ibaya na ngayon na kami usa nga balay. Maupay-upayan na, kontra na dito kami hantin. Kay diri na din himapaso, presko net hangin. Amula ito, waray pa kami mga trabaho. Nagbibiling-biling pala. Iba talaga parang nasisring mo nga imo, ginhimo para imo. Oo, may parang gin malasakitan ka, so ganhiton. Iba nga, kumbaga totoosin, iba nga tao nga bumuli ka imo, ginhimo ang so ganhiton. Ay, basta. Ay, amo ito nga, salit man, makikita niyot akon balay, iba talaga hit iba. Diri balitang, rampaya, tungod hit ak wheelchair, tungod nga PWD ako, disable man ako. Asya ito nga, design para ako.
Pasalamat ni ugdak ko nga may bay. Sana unta nga napay katabangan nga sama na mo nga naguban ubay sa taga IOM. Daghang yung kayong salamat.
We've had a key role in trying to advocate for safer construction practices. We've done a lot of work with other partners, including the shelter cluster, to disseminate these key messages on how to build safer shelters. Our transitional shelters also include features that will mitigate the risk of impact by disasters. So that's definitely a key component of our contribute to the population affected by Haiyan.
Salamat namon sa IOM sa ginbulig niya, gindulon niya. Kag sa tanang kumuluyo diri baskin sino pa magkupunin nagapasalamat kay kunwahay ang IOM. Ngayon kamang-kamang baka may tuta.
Dako yung buligan IOM maakon. Kay tungod ang pagsulod kon IOM, kumato kami ay iba-iba nga lugar. Nakita namon, nabaruan namon ang story, an era life after an Yolanda. Nakita ko nga bagat lucky pa ngayon ako, bisan bagat feeling hopeless na talaga ako at that time, na parang nakita ko nga may da pa ngayon rason para pagbangon.
A lot still needs to be done because the impact of Yolanda was so vast that many families did not receive any type of assistance. According to the shelter cluster numbers, I think we've reached only around 30% of the families with recovery shelter needs. That means that a large number of families are on their own and trying to rebuild their homes on their own and with the means that they have or don't have, which definitely increases their vulnerability to a future disaster. That is a key concern. We would like to identify, to have more information about those needs. We will have to work with our partners to see where are the key gaps and try to address them. One of the key areas that we are still committed to work on, and we believe there's a serious need, is to keep working on training people to build safer shelters. We are very much interested in complement those trainings with information campaigns to disseminate information that can be useful for those that are in the process of rebuilding their homes but can benefit from advice on safer construction techniques.